welcome back to Wave Work Stress Goodbye with me, Luke Richardson. Today, I'm really pleased to welcome Kate Winslow to the podcast. Kate is a personal coach for teens and parents, supporting families to thrive by sharing a deep understanding of how our experiences create from the inside out. Her work helps both young people and parents navigate pressure, emotion, and challenge with far more clarity and compassion. Kate also brings an extraordinary personal story. She emigrated from Russia to the United States at just 16 years old and faced significant hardships along the way, including being held at gunpoint, periods of homelessness, and experimenting with drugs. Through education, insight, and resilience, she was able to turn her life around, build a family, and dedicate her work to helping others find stability and understanding in their own lives. I'm absolutely delighted to have Kate here. I'm really looking forward to exploring her experiences, her insights, and the wisdom she's gained along the way. Please welcome Kate Winslow.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Nah, pleasure, pleasure. So yeah, we've talked before off air, and you gave me a snippet into your past as I've just described. Do you want to go back there again, and so the listeners can hear your story of what happened when you were younger and your journey from emigrating from to the United States from Russia and what I've described, what you went through and what you experienced and how you've come to see that understanding now. Now you're doing what you do.
Yeah. Well, I think it makes sense to go back there because that's kind of like the material of which my life has been put together, right? Like it's just kind of part of my story, even though hearing you say that, again, it's just like shocking
Yeah.
to me now. Because it just sounds so like extreme, but obviously when I was experiencing that, I didn't feel that way. I felt like it was just my experience. I was just living life and given the circumstances. But yeah, my story is that I was born in Russia and at age 16 immigrated with my immediate family, which is, my mom, dad, and my sister to the United States. We didn't really know anyone here in the United States where I am now. And so it was, I think, very difficult for all of us, and especially for my parents looking back, they were in their 40s to just, find their way to figure out what they were going to do here. They were both highly educated. They had master's degrees, but they didn't have the language. They didn't speak
Yeah.
English really well. And the reason why we immigrated, I think that's important to mention, is because we won a green card. Like none of us expected to do this, so we didn't really actually prepare for this journey. And we won the green card, I think, in June, and then October of that year, we already were on the plane to San Francisco. So
So
it's very
is
quick.
this the I'm just guessing, but you can correct me. Is this the early 2000s, late 90s this happened?
96.
96. Okay.
96, yeah. Funny fact, I immigrated on my birthday when I
Oh,
turned 16 on the plane, and that was like the longest birthday because of the time change,
yeah, sure.
because
A double birthday.
when we boarded, it was my birthday, and then when, like whatever, 13 hours later, it was still my birthday. But anyway, so that happened, and then when the excitement wore off, being in the new country and meeting all these new people, the reality kind of set in. Like, what do we do for a living? Where do we live? What school do I go? And how do I manage that? Not knowing the language. And probably after like the first couple of years were just like a blur to me. I really missed being back home with my friends. I had a boyfriend at the time. And I didn't know anyone here. So it was just like me struggling to make friends, me struggling to assimilate, me struggling to actually understand what the teachers were saying at school, and just like not knowing, I didn't really have an understanding of like what was going to happen next or how this is going to resolve. I just saw that it was like a lot of hard work for me. So my solution to that was to get involved with like this bad crowd. And that was back in the 90s. And that's when the rave scene just started. So there was a lot of this trancey music, and there was a lot of, ravers and going to raves, and it was all underground and like secretive and fun to me, at 17, 18. And so I thought it was a good idea, to just kind of join that crowd and have fun and experiment with drugs. And then I fell in love with this guy, and he was also in the scene. And so it's just like, oh, now finally I feel accepted because, when you're on drugs and when you're dancing, you don't really have to speak English, or you don't have to like make connections, right, with people. It just
Sure.
kind of naturally happens. So that took me down a very interesting road because I made a connection that if I'm not feeling great, I can just take drugs to make myself feel better. And that worked really well. For anyone who experimented with drugs, they would know what I'm talking about. It works really well. It works instantly. You instantly feel better. And I thought that that worked for me. I'm just going to keep doing that. And so I ended up kind of experimenting with harder drugs as well, and ended up becoming a heroin addict at age 19. And that in itself kind of led me into the homelessness, the hardship, and everything else that you listed in the beginning.
No, I mean, a teenager goes through a lot in normal, well, in say, quote, in normal circumstances. So to move to
Right.
a country as big as America and have all these different experiences and, not the other language. And like you say, the first 2 years were quite a blur for you. That's a lot going on for a teenager. So I've got a lot of empathy for you having that experience back then.
Thank you. I
No,
appreciate it.
and
Yeah.
also, I was reading Matthew Perry's book that he wrote before he died over Christmas. I got it for Christmas, so it wasn't my birthday. One of them. I read it over Christmas, and I've never been a drug addict personally, but you're absolutely right. The way he describes how he escaped certain things in his life, he said that alcohol and drugs were his way of cope with it. He was like, "Oh, I feel really good taking this. This is it. This is the thing I've been looking for to get to where I want to be." And of course, of course, we won't talk about Matthew Perry too much, but long story short, he's really struggled to get off the addiction, as we all know. And
Hmm.
you're right. You're right. A lot of people do turn to these substances because they think that's their way of coping.
Well, if you think about it, it's sort of like an escape button. It's like, do you want to get away?
Yeah.
Just do this. And it will instantly transform your experience of life. And what I'm realizing now that I'm 45 years old and have lived, a longer period of time is that what had happened to me was that I just didn't learn, I didn't know that I could just feel the feelings. As a teenager, I think a lot of the times we're not really taught that, you know, the experience of life is both positive and negative. Somehow, I thought that it was supposed to be just positive all the time. And, that negative part, I don't want that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I don't
That
think
I
you're
don't
anyone.
want.
I don't think you're anyone who thinks that. I think that too.
And so when I immigrated and I encountered all this hardship, right? All this negative experience, I was like, I don't want any of this. I don't feel good experiencing these feelings. And instead of just seeing it for what it is just a negative feeling. It's just a negative emotion that is transient, right? I know now that it's transient. It's like it's meant to come through me and not stay. I saw it as like it's never gonna
Yeah.
leave, and I have to do something about it, right? I made it my deal, like my mission to do something about it, to make myself feel better. And that was my making myself feel better through drugs.
Yeah, and that's completely understandable. I do it too all the time, even today. I forget that we are experiencing this thing called life, and I forget that I don't need to do anything out here necessarily to change it. And you can understand why people do turn to drugs, alcohol, other things, because it makes sense to them that they think that thing out there is making them feel better in here, and it's not the case. It's there's no direct link between one another. And like you say, we don't get taught that in schools.
Mm-mm, no. And also when we experience a negative emotion, and you and I look know now that it's attached to our thinking, right? Like there's some sort of thinking going on in your head that manifests in your body as an unpleasant feeling. But a lot of people, A, don't know that, and B, think like, oh, something is wrong. Something has gone wrong that I feel this way, this unpleasant way. Or even worse, they think something's wrong with me that I feel this way,
Yeah,
right? And then that creates even more thinking that spirals into this even worse feeling. And then you're in this loop of thinking negatively about thinking negatively. And yeah, it can be really, really hard to get out of.
absolutely, absolutely. So, if you don't mind, let's fast forward to the around the present time. So, the last two or
Yeah.
3 years, I think you mentioned to me when we communicated before the recording that it's only the last 2 or 3 years you've come to truly take in this understanding and start to try and spread the word yourself. So can you tell me a bit about you and the work you do? So you are someone who, like me, who understands the other side out understanding. Excuse me. Can you tell me about the people you speak to? So I think you mentioned parents and teenagers. Can you tell
Mhm.
us a bit about the work you do there?
Yeah. So my understanding started more than 10 years ago. It started with a meditation course. I'm sure it's like widely known, but it's called Vipassana. And it's essentially a 10-day silent meditation course that you take, and then you learn the art of meditation. And it stems from India, from Buddhism, and it's very much of observing your thinking or even observing your sensations, physical sensations on your body. And so after taking that course, I think I quieted my mind down enough during those 10 days of being silent that I could really feel like there's something more that I want to do with my life. And I wasn't sure what it was, but I definitely thought it would have to do something with, my experience so far. And so at that time, I started my journey of self-development. I read a lot of books and I started listening to Eckhart Tolle and other, modern day gurus, and eventually came to coaching and learned about, your thoughts creating your feelings and your feelings creating your experience of life or your results. And I thought that was brilliant. Um, And at that time, I wanted to get certified as a coach. So I joined Berkeley Executive Coaching Institute and did a certification with them. And that entitles like 60 hours of coaching. So I got a really good life experience of what it's like to be a coach to people. But I still wasn't sure, like, how do I really tap into my experience, what I personally, Kate, can bring to others? And to me, it was really evident that my experience as a teenager, especially immigrating to another country, was really something that I wanted to talk about with other people and to share that experience with other people and maybe other teenagers and maybe other parents that have teenagers. And so that's when I kind of pivoted into that niche and started working with parents and teens. And it's been incredibly rewarding.
Excellent. And do you find that you have both parents and I guess teenagers that are more the higher end of the teenage age going on to adults? Do you find you get a lot of people talking to you about work stress issues with you?
Yeah, I think I think in general, like being a teenager is just a really hard time.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
I heard
you think the
someone,
world's against you, don't you, when you're a teenager?
yeah. I heard someone like compare being like adolescence to like a remodel. You know, you as a human being is just like going through an extensive remodeling during that time. You know, there's like walls taken down, you know, there's new piping that's being put through, maybe some new electricity. You know, there's like a lot of stuff that is just in transition, you know. Something doesn't work over here. Maybe like something is already working here, but not good enough. And um, so I look at that period of life as kind of, it fascinates me, to be honest with you. But it's also, I feel like, again, if we go back to that understanding, like a lot of teenagers think that something is wrong with them because they feel this way, because they're not sure, you know, they're kind of leaking over here. There's like, you know, there's some noise over here, banging happening. And they're like, I don't know who I am or what I am becoming here. And I'm making that mean something about me personally. And that to me, like, that's where an opportunity for a parent or a coach to come in and to hold space for them and to just, you know, believe that, listen, this is totally normal. What you're going through, this remodel situation, is totally normal. We've all gone through it. Like the idea is like, don't get carried away with this thinking, right? That something has gone wrong and see it for what it is. Like take a step back and see it for what it is. You're just going through a hard time.
Yeah, yeah. I was born in 1988, so I'm 37 now. I'll be 38 this year. And it's amazing because being a teenager when I was a teenager back in the mid 2000s, today's world, being a teenager is so different to 20 years ago. You know, social media, um, and all this other stuff that we didn't have back then. So, um, me and my daughter, she's the oldest one. She's 7 now, and she's showing signs of that. She's showing signs already of, you know, worrying about things, how she looks already. And we're trying to kind of say what you just said now, that, you know, it's hard because I think when she looks at me, she looks at me as dad. I think it would be
Mhm.
better coming from a third party person telling her, but you try and just tell her it's the experience, but I'm not too sure it's going in. But I just keep saying that, and hopefully it will be ingrained as she gets older to just see that it's just experience. It's not riveted to her. When she
Mhm.
becomes a teenager, it's even more challenging. Saying what, God forbid, she's 8 this year. In 5 years' time, it'll be a lot easier for her.
Yeah. Well, I see this a lot in parents too,
Yeah.
right? Like parents, when they see those signs in their kids, right, of changing, of, you know, being anxious or, you know, starting caring about video games or how
Mm.
they look or makeup or all of that stuff, you know, they get also spooked by it as well. They make it mean like, oh no, oh no, the teenage years have started. You know, and somehow that's like a negative thing. And what I encourage parents to do is just like trust the process. Trust the process that your kiddo will navigate it the best they can. And what you, as a parent, the best thing you can do is like trust them that they have the same wisdom that carried you through the teenage years at some point, they have it in them as well. And like just that one, the belief, the trust that we have in our kids, I think like if you can just do that for your kiddo, they will be really set like for a better experience versus if you start spiraling in your thinking, right?
Yeah,
About, oh, it started, I have a 9-year-old daughter, so I can relate, she's into like fashion now. Oh my
yeah,
God, what's going to happen when she's 13, 14? It's going to get worse. It's really easy to get carried away with that
yeah,
thinking. And then you find yourself with a 9-year-old already, frantic about what maybe is coming in 2, 3, 4 years from
yeah.
now. And that
Ex
doesn't help anyone, is what I'm
no,
saying.
no, it
Like
doesn't.
that
And
kind
I
of.
try as a dad to take a step back, try and look for, I'm talking in three principles language here, try and look for the space within before I deal with a situation with my child, rather than use it from the intellect. Because when I use it from the intellect, I often do the wrong thing, whether I snap or just do the wrong thing when the obvious way was always there. It was just hidden because of my thinking.
Hmm. Well, it's amazing that you recognize that,
Not all the time,
but a
but I
lot,
hope to. I do sometimes.
but a lot of
Depends what
parents
mood.
don't
Depends
even,
what mood I'm.
yeah.
Depends what mood illusion I'm in. But yeah,
Yeah, right. And same with me,
yeah,
me too. Me too. I'm a human and at the end of the day, I'm tired and I have a lot of thinking going on about the next day or what I wanted to do today or what I didn't get to today, right? And it puts me in my own intellect as well. And a lot of the times, your kids kind of bear the load of that in a way.
yeah.
And it's human. Like I always just like the worst thing I can do in that moment is to get into my thinking about feeling guilty about it
It's
as
funny,
a
isn't it? Because
parent.
because from the early years of school, we're taught to, maths, for example. You need to think to work this out. Think, 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 and then we can catch on to that, and we think thinking is the way forward in life. And there's people, our age, older than us, that are still using that technique to go through life when they don't have to think as much. But it can be the answers can be a lot softer if we just let it be. Let it be.
Hmm. Well, again, like I don't know if your audience actually, knows about three principles, and this is very three principles thing, right? So think less to solve your problems. And if you go and say that to someone outside of this understanding or this community, they will be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What do you mean I have to think less to solve my problem?
Yeah.
How's it going to get solved then?
Yeah, because our point
Right?
we're just taught to think, and it just seems it feels unsafe not to think.
Very unsafe.
Yeah, yeah. So
Like,
you can understand if
what's going to happen?
someone's been brought up like we all have been, just to think our way through life, then you will be quite scared about that approach.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was raised by very intellectual parents myself, and it was from the very early age, it was all about education. It was all about getting
Yeah,
good grades, getting into good school, getting, a good degree. And I, of course, rebelled against all of it. But looking back, I think there was a lot of weight put onto the intellect.
yeah,
And when I came across this understanding, And I actually experimented with dropping out of my intellect. My heart was beating so fast. Like I was so terrified of the unknown,
Yeah.
right? Because to drop out of your intellect, to stop intellectualizing something is to drop in deeper. I I literally like my hands were shaking when I first experimented with that. And I'm still not great at it, to be
Yeah.
honest with
Same.
you.
Same. When I think I've got there, that whatever there is, I just fall back into my old habits again. And I'm trying to teach this, but I'm just like you say, I'm human as well. So and you are too. So it's easy just to fall back in to be. It's easy to fall back into that illusion of how we see life. It's so compelling.
Mhm. Yes, it's very compelling, but that's what makes us really good coaches for other
Yeah.
people because we're not completely out of it and
No.
we can relate to their experience. And there's so much compassion, right, from us to someone who is going through it, who is very much
Yeah.
in their thinking. Because we experience that as well. And I can imagine if I was like, oh, I'm done with that part, I wouldn't be as relatable. I wouldn't have all the stories, all the experiences, to share with my clients that make me, relatable to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you say, it's human. And people want that. People want to see us being human because that's what we are. And it's more relatable, like you say. It's believable. You can feel that connection. Whereas if you're portraying something that's kind of like a strategy, kind of like say no, do this, and their life will be 100% perfect. Might work for some people, but not everybody. This is real life, and this is what people connect with.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, work stress is getting worse, and I think I read something in the UK that 1 in 3 people are experiencing workplace stress. Now, I don't know what it's like in the States, but I imagine that's pretty similar, if not worse. Because I know America is very corporate, just like here as well. Um, if anyone's listening that's suffering from work stress, what would you say to them? What would you say? Say I came to you and I had as you as my coach and I had a work stress problem. What would you be saying to me to make me see life like we're trying to point to?
Yeah, this is an interesting question because I can relate to this so much. My husband just started a new job. And so he is like in the thick of it, in the thick of like work related stress because there's a lot of moving parts. He's
Yeah,
new. There was very little training. He's been, kind of dropped into these projects and having to run them. And so I think I personally really struggle with like I struggle with pushing people into this understanding. You know what I mean? Like for me, there's a point at which a person, like they have to ripen to that point.
yeah,
It's almost like if you're not there yet, what I'm saying is complete gibberish. Like
yeah,
there's some people that are listening to us right now and they don't know what we're saying. They're probably stopped listening already, but there are some people that are ripened enough. They're at a stage where they're able to hear more. They're open to it. And that maybe I'm saying ripened, but it may be like a consciousness level, right? Like that George Prensky talks about. There's level of consciousness that we all go through and they change all the time, but there's a point in where we jump a level of consciousness, right? You and I experienced that because we now have this understanding of 3 principles. And it's like, I think, impossible to understand it without jumping to that
yeah,
level of consciousness. And so I feel like there are people that are right there, they're kind of like hovering and they're ready. And when they hear something, we call it they have an insight, right? They have a new thought about something that they've never seen before. They've never seen it that way before. And all of a sudden they see it like that.
Yeah.
It's very instant. It's a new thought. And that's when that jump in the level of consciousness happens. And so for me, if there are some listeners that are experiencing this work stress and they're just hovering, all we can do is to talk about what we know.
Yeah.
Like, and this is exactly what this conversation has been about. I'm telling you from my experience what I understood for myself, and you're telling me what you understood for yourself. And when we do that, people are able to hear something new for themselves. And then it's like, there's nothing for us to do. The work is done.
Yeah. That's what I love about this because, like you say, the person has to be in the right headspace to see this, and the potential's there to grasp this understanding in 2 minutes. It's the potential's there. Doesn't mean they will do, but the potential's
Mm-mm.
there. And I know exactly what you mean because on not my previous podcast episode, my last one, my last solo one, I told the listeners at the start to basically turn the tape off if you were in the right headspace because you're gonna miss it. I said
Mm-hmm.
pause the podcast, come back to it later on when you're in a place where you have space to take this in because you'll hear it more. Or if you didn't quite catch it, what I'm saying, listen to it again because it's true. If you're in, if you're in an illusion that's just rattling on in your mind, you're gonna miss it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I
Mm-hmm.
encourage. But like I say, I love it because the potential's there for someone to have a 5 minute, therapy session and get it and they're cured rather than hours and hours and hours of going back in the past and talking about this and talking about that and what about this and what about that. There's not like you say, like you just said, you don't really talk about the actual work stress issues. You just talk about how life works for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just point to what you understand,
Yeah,
what you've understood for yourself. Like, and somehow people feel when it's true. And that puts them in the, higher state of mind, right? Like in the better, open, clear mind where they're able to receive something new, which comes in the form of thought. And that's all that
yeah,
needs to happen, whether it's like work stress, whether it has something to do in the relationship or with your teen or as a parent. There's no like there's no special thing for each one of those cases.
no,
It's all about the state of mind you're in and how open you are to hearing the truth. That's it.
absolutely, absolutely. I still do a 9 to 5 now. And even I still fall into it. I fall into, finishing work and thinking, oh, crikey, my head's all messed up. And I'm, hang on a minute. Is this really a problem or am I just making it a problem? And, all the time it's myself that's making it a problem. But it's so hard to see. I was a project manager for 7 years at my old company, and that was stressful to me. I understand hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I understand now the years have gone by, that I was the one doing the play. I was the one directing the performance in my mind. Yes, okay, there was a lot of workload going on, a lot of pressure, a lot of deadlines, a lot of this and that. But I was the one who was creating it. But it was so hard for me to see during the time. So I can understand why
Yeah.
people do fall into this trap, and that's what I want to. that's why I do. That's why I talk to interesting people like you. That's why I do this because I want people to not necessarily have to look for another job, although that might be the right thing to do if they can see that, if they have the space within them to see that. What I want them to do is see how life works to know they're not a victim of what's going on
Mhm.
in their day-to-day working lives.
Yeah. Well, I think no one can deny, right? And people say that to me. Well, my reality is that, I have to work 10 hours a day because of the amount of work that I have to do. And that's true, that's real, right? The illusion comes from when you start thinking about that, right? That's when we come into suffering because well, we redo that. One sec.
Absolutely, take your time.
I'm going to tell you a story. I think the
Yeah, go for
story
it.
is
Go
better
for it.
here
Absolutely.
because of what happened to my dog. I think it really highlighted for me because my dog got attacked by another dog and it happened really quickly within the span of like 10 minutes. It was very traumatic because, well, I didn't expect it. We were on a holiday, the kids were there, we were kind of, well, going up in the mountains to ski. And then all of a sudden, this thing happens where I'm, rushing to the hospital with a bleeding dog in my arms. And I have a lot of like scary thoughts about
Yeah.
it. She's going to die. She's not going to make it. She's in a lot of pain. I couldn't prevent it, or like I should have done something differently. And while the reality is that I'm holding my bleeding dog, right? And she is suffering, that's like what happens in that moment. That's the reality. What made it worse is me starting to think either going into the future,
Yeah.
right? She's going to die. She's not going to make it. And it's going to be a terrible experience. My kids witness this. They're going to be traumatized. I'm going to be traumatized. My life is forever ruined. Or going into the past, right? Like, oh, I went into that coffee shop and I didn't see that dog. And maybe I should have stayed outside with my dog and I could have done this. None of that is helpful. And I remembered like when my mind started going that way, and it was very convincing. Like it really wanted to go in either one of those directions. It didn't want to go in the present because the present was awful, right?
Yeah.
Bleeding dog, suffering. So my mind wants to escape that in either direction. What I remembered is Linda Prensky saying, and she says this, she says, there's no cheese down that rat hole. Meaning if you go into that thinking, there's no reward for you there,
No.
in either direction.
That's a
There's
beautiful metaphor.
yeah, there's no cheese down that rat hole. And I just had the awareness to just keep bringing myself back into the moment, however awful that was. And so maybe just to relate the story to what we're talking about, I understand that your present moment may be difficult. You may have a looming project. You may have, your boss is wanting something from you and you can't deliver, and that is the reality. But when you start thinking about that into the future, that means I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna get fired, I'm gonna feel awful about myself, or you go into the past, I should have done this, I should have worked more on this. There's no cheese down that rat hole.
No.
You're just making your experience so much worse by doing that. And another friend, when I was going through it, really said something that stuck with me. She said, if you just stay with that experience, however awful it is, in the present moment, it has nowhere to go but through you.
Yeah.
None of this is permanent. Our experience of life is created moment to moment. And that's a good news.
Yeah.
That's a really good news. Because whether you're having an amazing moment or you're having a terrible moment, guess what? The next moment it can change. And that's a lot of hope,
Yeah.
for anyone.
A lot of relief as well, like you say, good news
Yeah.
and relief.
Yeah.
For the benefit of of a listeners, can you confirm your dog's okay now?
My dog is just fine. She's recovered really well and she's back to her old self.
Ah,
So, yeah.
no, no, that's excellent. That's excellent news. Um,
But did that make sense, Luke, what I
yes,
said?
yes, it did. It did. It was actually beautifully put, and you can understand, Kate, why you were going into the future and the past. We all do it. I do it. You know, our next door neighbors will do will do it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just a human thing to do, and you're right. And I mean, the metaphor was absolutely beautiful. I've not heard that one before, but that was a really good way of putting it. There is no glory there at the end of it. And the only,
Mhm.
you know, as painful as it is, like you say, we are better just staying with the experience in the moment and just doing the best we can in it, which sounds
Mhm.
exactly what you did with your dog, getting him to the vet as soon as you could.
Yeah. Yeah. And the amazing thing happens, when you stay with your experience in the present moment, you kind of know what to do. Like, you don't really need to think a lot. Like, looping back to what you and I were talking about earlier, there's kind of like this innate wisdom that we all have that will guide us in those moments. We're so afraid of those moments, though. We're so afraid that when something terrible happens, we won't know how to react. We won't know what to do, and we'll do something stupid. But the experience, or my experience, shows that you kind of know what to do.
It's like you
You
said,
know to ask.
it's like what you said at
Yeah.
the beginning of the podcast where you said you were describing your teenage years. You said, I don't want those experiences. And like you say, those experiences are gonna happen. But with understanding, like you say, we have the wisdom to deal with them.
Yeah. And that's beautiful, Luke, because going back to teenagers, like that's what they're lacking.
Yeah.
They're lacking that trust, they're lacking that belief that they know, that they will know, that they have that wisdom within them to know what to do. And they have a lot of people talking into their ears, especially now, right? Like with maybe metaphorically speaking, social media,
Yeah.
there's a lot of different ways to communicate now. You're constantly connected to your friends, to chat groups or whatever. And you forget that you have this thing, like your wisdom that you can really tap into instead of listening and researching, Googling, and, going on social media trying to learn how to deal with a certain problem.
Yeah. It's all within us. Um, yeah, I could talk about this all night, to be honest. It's just such a it's just life's life's best kept secret that nobody really seems to know.
And yeah, and I think what makes it even more amazing is the fact that when it comes from within us, it's just lands differently, it lands differently. You believe that so much more, right? When you come to this solution yourself and it feels true to you, you're so much more likely to stick with it than, if your parent told you this or your friend told you this or you found an answer online and you're trying it out. It just hits differently.
I think when you get an insight like me and you have had enough to want to share it with other people, it's very hard to lose it. Yes, you will lose it because we're human, like we said, and we'll get lulled into our heads and we'll see our experience is really real. But once you know, I think Sid Banks said this as well, it's very hard to lose it when you know. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I was actually listening to Aaron Turner today. I don't know
Oh,
if you know
excellent.
who he
Yeah,
is.
yeah, I've listened to a few of his recordings before.
And he said this funny thing that kind of stuck with me. He said, people that are new to this understanding, when they forget, you know, they come back and they're like, kind of like, they're like, oh, shoot, I forgot. I'm going to beat this. I'm going to beat this system, right? But people who have been in this understanding for 40 or whatever, however many years, they forget and they are like, oh, that's part of the game.
Yeah,
They kind of accept the fact that being human means that we will forget. We will get carried away and we will think that our thinking is like the reality. And then you'll remember all of a sudden, it's like just the next best thought, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm carried away right now. And like just having that understanding lets you come back to that, kind of reset state of being, of remembering.
that's it, is it? 'Cause I think when I first came across this understanding, I think it was around 2017, something like that. I was one of those people, like just described, new people when they come across it. I thought, oh, wow, that sounds amazing, and then I'd forget, and then I'd really beat myself up about it. But now, as the years have gone by, it is part of the game, and I know I'm going to lose it, and that's fine. That's fine now,
And
'cause I know it's part and parcel of it, and I lose less and less, and I lose for not as long as well.
yeah.
So I pull myself back to it again.
And I think a lot of us, and probably you, and including me, we like being in these conversations like we are now
Yeah,
because it lets us not forget it, right? Like when
yeah,
we're talking about it, it's kind of a reminder in itself. And that's like kind of selfishly, I like being in these conversations because it lets me not forget about it for just that much
yeah.
longer, even if it's just during our conversation. And as soon as we hang up, I get in the car and I, get carried away and I yell at someone who cut me off on the road. And
That'll probably
like,
happen to me tomorrow when I'm editing this podcast. I'll probably be going through it, not in my illusion, and then come across something you said when I edit it tomorrow and go, oh yeah, I'm back to it again.
exactly. Yeah. There will be a moment like, oh, the external, whatever is happening externally is dictating my experience right now. It's like whether it's my kid, being in the bad mood or my, whatever, my husband being grumpy and I'm like, oh, I wish he was different. I wish he was in a better mood because that makes me feel worse. Right now, I see it as an illusion, right? But,
In the moments,
hopefully
it's
when
totally different, though, isn't
yeah, no one
it?
guarantees this when I get home. So,
Well, it's been an absolute beautiful conversation, Kate. I'm going to give you the chance now to tell us about your plans for 2026. What's on your agenda this year? What's your mission?
yeah. Wow. So I'm currently in the Pransky How to Be a Coach course. So that's going to last for about 7 months this
Oh,
year.
wow.
And I'm really excited about it because we also have a little community, our group of people that we all get together. So I'm in a constant state of learning. I'm still running my practice as a coach, and if people want to get in contact with me, it's just essentially winslowcoaching.com. And yeah, I'm just out here learning myself. And as much as I learn, I then like to share it with other people. And sometimes it's helpful and sometimes it's not. But I'm here for all of it. It's part of the game.
It is part of the game indeed. Thank you for sending that email address. What I will do when I edit and upload, I will put your email address and Instagram details in the notes section. So if people are interested in getting in touch with you, they'll be able to see and do
Oh,
exactly
can
that.
I plug in something? Sorry.
Yeah, 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 go for it. Yeah,
Yeah. I have a monthly free coaching circle that I do for parents and
yeah.
teens. And so it's every third Friday of each month. And they can also find it on my website if they want to do that. But it's a free hour where people drop in and with whatever on their mind, and we get together and we talk, and sometimes they feel better.
Which is what we
And
try
that's
and
the
do.
hope. Yeah.
Did you say you had a website as well as Instagram? I'll put the website link in there
Yeah.
too. Yeah, okay.
It's
Is it on the Instagram
winslowcoaching.com.
page?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll put your email address on there, your Instagram and your website in there as well. So everything's locked in there.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks for
No,
having me.
no,
This,
no.
I
Thank you for
mean,
coming on.
I
I
can't believe it's been an hour.
Has it
I
really?
just had so much fun.
Wow, that's gone on quick. The clock's up there, and I haven't looked at it once. So
Yeah,
I didn't
it's
even
been
know it
just
was an
about an
hour.
hour. Well, that's
Well,
amazing.
thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. This
Anytime.
afternoon for you, evening for me. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it.